Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. I am so glad that you're all here. And, hello, everybody who is watching and also on the replay as well. This is going to be a very fun, if not mind-twisting, broadcast today because we're really going to go into some very ephemeral concepts. But I think the reason why it's so important to discuss them is because it really bears on our true existence and everything that's going on. So, first off, I'd love to see everybody who's here. Let me know where you're from. Give me a little chat in the chat box. Let me know how things are going. I know right here, it's still raining. It's been raining probably for the last, I don't know, what, 3, 4 days or something. I don't know if it's that hurricane that came up from Florida. What was it, Hurricane Ian or something? I just know that we've just been soaking wet. It's like I might as well get out a rowboat and go places, right? It's just been absolutely horrific. But from what I understand, tomorrow's supposed to be pretty good. But without further ado, what I wanted to do is to jump in, pretty directly. First off, for those people who don't know who I am, my name is Chris Lippincott. Um, I'm an international spiritual medium and a best-selling author, and what I do is I discuss spirit. I discuss what they're trying to say, how they say it, what some of the proofs are that we've got, and some of the understandings that we can use to really back up how spirit's here. What is it that is all around us? Sometimes we'll feel it, sometimes we'll sense it, but is it real? Because we as humans, we're always asking, is that my imagination? Is that real? Is that my senses? What's going on? How do I figure this all out? Well, today what I wanted to do was to really dive into that and also help us understand more about what we can do as spirit incarnate, as human beings having this experience in the physical world, to really understand why we are actually so much more um, powerful, limitless, in fact, than we truly are. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there. And in fact, if you didn't see today, what the title of our whole broadcast is, it's all about reality, because reality is merely an illusion, right? And that's what everything is about, because we kind of go around the world and we're just thinking, okay, this is something that I know must be. I'm touching my hand; it's got to be there. So that's it. Or the cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. That kind of thing. So we all think that we're this tangible being, and that everything around us is sort of like that physical nature. When in fact, I'm here to tell you it's way beyond that. It's so much farther beyond that, so much more glorious than that. So I just wanted to kind of start with that. So, we're seeing somebody from southeastern Pennsylvania. Hi, Eileen. How you doing? Good seeing you, Jane. Hi, good seeing you also. So let me just kind of jump in a little bit more. Now, I've got a proposition for you. What I've got here is, in fact, something that's going to be a little bit mind-bending. I kind of propose to you something that is going to bend your mind a little bit. It's going to bend your mind kind of like a pretzel, okay? So my proposition is stick your hand out, right? Just stick your hand out in front of you. What do you see? Okay. Maybe you'll see a hand. It's going to be something that's out there, but my proposition is going to really twist your mind. It's going to bend your mind like a pretzel. Looks like pretty good, right? But what's going to happen is when you put your hand out, and tell yourself what you see. That maybe that's what you see. Maybe you think that that's your hand, and you're counting 5 fingers, and your skin, and you can touch it, and it's all out there, right? And you think, oh wow, that's really great. But what I'm actually here to tell you is that there really is no hand there. It's not there. In fact, it's nothing but energy. Your hand is nothing but energy. You are nothing but energy, right? And this is something that I'm going to go through step by step, because to understand the fact that we are energy, and that we, in fact, are more than what we perceive is really something that takes a little bit of navigating. So let me move through this. One of the things that's so interesting about quantum physics is that quantum physics comes along and says, okay, this is actually the field that we're going to work with. And quantum physics captures this whole notion quite well. And in fact, quantum physics says that's exactly what's going on. We are energy. But what's so interesting about this is that quantum physics also says that the traditional model of the atom, for example, this is an image of the atom. We all kind of grew up with this image of the atom in school, right? It's kind of like a planetary system, right? We've got the electron, the neutron, you got the orbits of all these things, and we come to understand them. They're all whizzing around, but this model is flat out wrong. It's dead wrong. In fact, those electrons, those neutrons, those protons that are supposedly whizzing around, they're not even there. They are representations of energy. So what's so difficult to comprehend is that model of an atom is merely something that is just going around and around and around. They're in fact just different dimensions. In fact, there's a great expression that says these are in fact quantum particles. They don't really have any structure. They don't have any size. They're zero dimensional, and they're all just illusionary. They're just basically energy. And in fact, those things that we thought are so solid, we thought they were subatomic particles that you could kind of tangibly grasp onto. They're just energy. They're non-dimensional. They're not even shaped like anything. So that's what's something that's so amazing. And in fact, Einstein has got a great quote. He said, "Reality is merely an illusion," although it's a very persistent one. And that's the perfect statement. That sums up everything that we're talking about today, that everything that we're dealing with is just an illusion. It's just our senses, our perception puts it all together so that we can begin to understand what's all around us. We look outside, we see a forest, suddenly our brain comes together and goes, oh, okay, that's a forest. We know what it is. Our eyes see something, we feel something, we smell something, our brain's taking in all this information, and we're perceiving it and we're understanding it. Another thing that Einstein said was that it's all about time. In fact, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. And that's one of the great quotations, because what we keep on hearing from Spirit, in fact, is the same thing. You've probably heard Spirit when they come through in automatic writings or different quotations, or in fact, even some of the ancient texts that all say that time does not exist. Time is a human element. It's actually a function of physical distance, which obviously doesn't exist in the non-physical. So Spirit is always saying that, in fact, there is no time. And in fact, time is a series of elements. It's a series of actions. It's a series of milestones. And that's really kind of where this comes up, because it says that everything everywhere is just a series of milestones. And it allows us to be everywhere. And in fact, what's so interesting is that under this theory of energy being everywhere, is that there's something called in quantum physics the superposition theory, which states that all these different particles that we're aware of can be hundreds of places simultaneously. Let me say that again. All these particles, these electrons, protons, quarks, all these different subatomic particles, they can be in hundreds of different places at the same time. And that goes also to the entanglement theory, that says that if you impact or try to move one thing, you can actually have an effect on something hundreds of light years away. And it's just really that everything is entangled in energy, everything is within energy, and everything is part of energy. And so it's under the superposition theory, everything is almost everywhere, which also explains why spirit or these angels or anything that you want to refer to in the spiritual realm can be everywhere at the same time. You say, well, how can angel XYZ be here and there? How can they heal me and him at the same time? Their energy. They can be at multiple places at once under the superposition theory. These are all theories that are in quantum physics. It's quantum mechanics. So if it's something you don't understand, go to any quantum mechanics. I mean, these are things you can Google. That's what I did. I'm not a brain surgeon or a physicist. God help me, no. But it's just these are just basic concepts that help you to understand everything that's going on. And that's what's so amazing about all this is that when you think about it, everything's kind of coming together. And what makes the superposition theory feasible is also something called the Copenhagen interpretation. And the Copenhagen interpretation is another theory within quantum mechanics that states that, in fact, everything is energy and everything can be everywhere, and ultimately everything is interacting with everything else. And as a result, not only can it be everywhere, but it's affecting everything at the same time. And it's just absolutely something that you begin to scratch your head and you're like, why is this working for me, right? So another quotation that I love to work with is from Erwin Schrödinger, a famous Austrian theoretical physicist. And he said, what we observe as material bodies, and I'll use that in quotes, and forces are nothing but shapes and the variations in the structure of space. Particles are just Schomen kommen. I guess that's Austrian. In other words, particles are just appearances, they're perceptions, what we perceive, right? So this is just something that, again, it's going to the fact that we are perceiving different things as we go through different energy states. And it's all about what is it that we are actually experiencing. And then you move forward and you start to see, okay, how can we understand energy? And how can we understand what we're actually touching? Aren't I actually touching the wall? Aren't I actually touching things? Well, there's also a theory in physics called the electron repulsion theory. And it's basically like two magnets, right? The electron repulsion theory states that every atom has, the electrons and protons, right? And it's the electrons that are negatively charged, and that when you actually get close to them, two electrons that have the same charge, they're both negatively charged, they repulse each other, just like a magnet. And let me show you an image of magnets, what I mean. Here's an image of a magnet. When you've got two poles that are trying to touch, let's say they're both north, they're going to repel each other. When you take the same side of a magnet, they won't touch. They'll repel each other. You'll feel the force between them. You can't work with them. Of course, if they're opposite sides, they'll attract. But since we're dealing with the same charge on each side of these electrons, these negatively charged electrons, they're going to repel each other. So what happens when they repel each other and you're trying to touch something? In fact, what you're sensing, what you're perceiving is just the electron charge, the repulsion between the different electrons. So what you sense as a touch is actually the energetic charge between the two. So when you actually think you're touching something, you're not touching something, you're perceiving the charge that you're touching. So it kind of looks like this. This is what you think you are touching. You think you're touching the wall when in fact you're not. You're actually that close to the wall and you can't get any closer. In fact, according to quantum physics, what happens is that you are getting to a hovering position of 10 raised to the minus 8 meters. I mean, that's some incredibly tiny fraction of nothing, right? But we perceive it as actually touching me. It sure looks like I'm touching. I sure feel like I'm touching, right? But in fact, that repulsion under the electron repulsion theory states we're saying, okay, we're hovering. So what does this all mean? Why am I bringing this all up? What's the point of all this quantum physics and all this gobbledygook and this science lesson? And you're probably going, what? This makes no sense to me. How how does it bear with me, right? Well, the bottom line is that everything around us is energy. We are energy, and due to the fact that we are energy, we are limitless. We are not our physical selves. We are not our perceived beings. We all hold each other back. We all hold ourselves back. We always have these preconceived notions, these limiting beliefs that I can't do that, or I can't do the other thing, or I'm not good at that, or I shouldn't do that, or I'm not strong enough, or I can't. Because we've got these limiting beliefs within us to say, I can't do that, or it's not possible. What I'm here to say is you are energy. Therefore, as energy, you are limitless. You create your reality. You create your world. You create your universe. You are a creator because you are energy. You are creating energy and creating perception and creating reality all around you every second of every day because you are energy. And in fact, you can go on to say that the theory of unity consciousness falls under this rubric of energy. If everything is energy, it makes complete sense, even under quantum physics, saying that if everything is energy, under unity consciousness, energy could be called energy, it can be called source, it can be called anything that you want to call it, whether you want to call it a God, information, space, the universe, whatever label you want to put onto it, it all comes down to the same concept. Energy. We're all energy. And that's what's so amazing about this. When you feel the energetic touch of spirit, or you feel that energy coming around you when spirit's coming close to you, you know that there's something going on. You feel a tingling and you're like, is that my imagination? Am I just cold? What's going on? This isn't really happening. Well, quantum physics is showing you that it certainly is happening. Quantum physics is demonstrating that spirit is very real. And in fact, spirit is blending with your energy because you are real in energetic form. You are limitless and you create your entire surroundings. So later this month, we're going to go into the concept of everything that you think about, you bring about. Everything that you are attracting to yourself is what you are thinking. And it's like Buddha said, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. And thought is energy. So as we put out thought energy, that's what we are creating into our world. So those who say, oh, I can't make a lot of money, or I can't find love, or I have no friends, that's the energy that you're putting out. So it's all about energy. So think about the concept that everything around you is energy and that you are energy and that you are creating everything around you. And that's really what this is all about. So with that, I just wanted to kind of put that out there and get these concepts to you that you are limitless. Now, I'm not saying go out and jump off a building, because gravity is also energy and gravity is going to act on the physical force of your body, and that's just not going to end well. But what I am saying is that you can create the energy around you. You are a consciousness. You send out magnetic energy. And in fact, that's another phrase you can think about. there's a magnetic energy between us, right? You've heard that phrase. You can feel that phrase, or there's like they're pulling at my heartstrings. That's energy. Everything's energy. Everything that relates to energy, it all comes down to energy at the end of the day. So here endeth the lesson. um, so if you've got questions, please just type them in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking. I know this was a complete mind bender. That was kind of my plan. I was hoping to bend your mind like a Twix into a pretzel. But if this is something that you enjoyed, I hope this was something that benefited you, kind of changed your perception. It's very much like the prisoners. In the cave, the allegory of the cave that I've mentioned in the past, right? It's all about the perception of the prisoners locked in a cave for all their life. They don't know anything beyond it. It's just like us humans. All we've ever known is our existence on this planet Earth, and that is something that, as a result, we think everything's real. If we go to a different dimension, we suddenly realize there's a lot more to pure existence than what we are perceiving in the here and now. So let me know what questions you've got. I'm glad that some of you are finding it interesting. I'm getting some good comments about it, so that's wonderful. It's really sort of a something that you may have to go home and digest, because I'm sure it is such a, I don't want to call it heavy, but such a theoretical approach that when you start thinking in terms of this, everything is energy, and everything that you thought you were touching, like your hand, is not really your hand, but in fact is just energy. You're like, whoa, what? Um, so I understand that it's quite a mind bender. Um, so I hope this was something that was beneficial to you. I hope this was something that really sparked a lot of curiosity, sparked a lot of intrigue, because I was here with the intention of shaking up your perception. I really wanted to change your mind, twist your mind, challenge your beliefs, challenge your assumptions. Whether or not you believe them doesn't matter. What I wanted to do was to make sure that you started to think about them. I'm not here to prove anything. I'm here to make you think. And there's a lot of stuff here that is food for thought. Although I got to admit that quantum physics is very convincing when you start to put all that data together and you start to wonder, this makes a lot of sense all of a sudden. And in fact, just as sort of as a side note, when I was going through my spiritual journey in the early years, because I came from such a materialist background, I had to have facts, right? And a lot of people do. They say, prove it to me. I need to know this. I can't rest on all this foo la la stuff. I need to know the real deal. What's going on here? So I turned to quantum physics, and I kind of dabbled in it a little bit. I don't know if that's the smartest thing. A little bit of knowledge is always a dangerous thing, but it helped me get over that bridge, right? I suddenly began to realize, oh, I get it. This is possible. It's possible in a scientific way. It's possible in a way that you can understand it. And all of a sudden, I began to grasp the concepts, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is real. Maybe this is fundamental, because I just couldn't take it on just outright belief. So when I married belief with scientific theories and assumptions and probabilities, and began to see that science actually was demonstrating the potential proof of the spirit existence, I was like, wow, there's something to it. And then it kind of broadened into, how does it affect me? And that's kind of where I came up with this. So just let's see if we've got any questions here. We've got one comment here saying that you appreciate the music and you got goosebumps Oh, when you were talking about I guess you were talking about the prior meditation. Yeah, that prior meditation was something that was also very 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 warm. But I take it as also the introduction as well. So I'm glad that you've all been led here. I feel like you've all been led to kind of open your minds to a greater reality that's beyond you, and that's kind of what this is all about. And Eileen is saying, loving the creating good energy. I don't know if you just saw that. I just saw that out of the corner of my eye. That looked like a wonderful orb. Anyway, saying all the wonderful energy around you, always super positive about life, no matter what. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like you can literally go down to the energetic level again and say, are you going to be positive energy? Or are you going to be negative energy? And again, yeah, how many times do we actually talk to people about, are you going to be positive? Are you going to be negative? And we don't really think about it in energetic terms. We just say those words. But what does it mean? It actually means energy. And what is energy? Energy is literally a sine wave like this. And it's the frequency, of what that sine wave is. You can measure it in hertz. And when you get positive energy, you're literally creating higher and higher vibrations, as opposed to negative energy where it's lower and lower vibrations. So the higher vibrations is what you're really going to feel. And it's like when you're elated, really high vibration. When you're in ecstatic love, extreme high vibrations. When you're in sheer anger and frustration, really low vibrations. When you're afraid, really low vibrations. So that's kind of like the spectrum. That's the positive versus the negative. So you're just like, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about energy here. So I'd love to hear if you've got any more questions. If you don't have any more questions, then I will leave you with this thought-provoking and mind-bending conceptualization of the fact that we are all energy and that everything around us is all energy, and that in fact our reality is merely an illusion. And I'm not going to take the claim for that. I'm not going to claim that being original. That's Albert Einstein. So if you believe Albert Einstein, which I think a lot of people do, he was pretty intelligent, then I think we've got something to work with, right? So, also, Eileen's mentioning that she is reading Jeff Olson's book, and that sounds like it's a wonderful thing. Yeah, because I know Jeff Olson, when he wrote The Slight Edge, he was which is what you're referring to, I think. He's actually talking about doing small, positive, easy daily disciplines, daily habits. It's all about what are the daily habits you do, and so long as you're doing small, daily, positive, easy habits, you're going to keep doing them. If you keep on trying to do big, hard, difficult things, you'll give up in a second. But if you're doing small, positive, easy daily habits, over the long term, it's just like compound interest. You're going to just skyrocket, because in the beginning, it's not going to feel like there's anything there. And then suddenly it takes off. It's like compound interest, where you've got like some 1 penny. It keeps doubling every day for 365 days. And by the time you've got that 1 penny, you'll have 37 times the money that you started with, right? So that's great. And we're getting a question here about, are we really slow energy in order to be physical? Great question. That's a very good question. And I would say absolutely. We in the physical state, we are low vibration state, low meaning lower frequency. So we're in a physical state, because think of it very much. Here's a perfect example. In how matter has to be in there, we got 3 states in matter. It can be a solid, it can be a liquid, or it can be a gas. Well, that's true with anything. As a solid, the molecules, let's take an ice cube, for example. As a solid, the molecules in an ice cube are moving incredibly slowly. So the vibration, the frequency is very, very slow, very low vibration. So we are solid. We're very much like that ice cube, right? Now, let's say you go the state higher. Let's say the ice cube melts, it gets hotter. What's happening? The molecules are speeding up. They're getting faster. The frequency is increasing. The vibration's increasing. It gets even hotter. Let's say you start boiling that water. All of a sudden, the molecules speed up even faster and faster and faster. And eventually, it creates steam to the point where you got boiling water. Suddenly, you got steam. So the molecules are just absolutely flying. Then you can take that steam to the next level beyond what's called plasma. Plasma is where you're getting the molecules exceedingly high. And then you can go to the final dimension where they escape velocity, where you're in a non-dimensional, non-physical dimension where we can't even detect it with physical state and physical senses. And that's the same thing with spirit. It's the same thing with our energy. It's the same thing with our consciousness. That's what happens. We're here in a physical body. Then the vibration occurs with a transition. We transition into a higher vibration. And we go into a non-dimensional state, non-physical dimension with high frequency. So I hope that kind of explains it for you. So that explains it. How are the realities shared? That's an interesting question. How are the realities shared? I'm not totally sure what you mean by how are the realities shared. It's other than the fact that what our reality is something that we have created, something that we have perceived. This entire lifetime of ours that we've been on planet Earth, we're used to what's around us. We're used to the physicality. We're used to our perceptions. It's like that wall, like the finger touching the wall. We perceive ourselves as touching the wall, when in fact we're not actually touching the wall. We're microscopically close to the wall. We perceive the fact that we're actually touching a wall, when in fact all it is electron repulsion. And so that's really sort of the perception. We're always perceiving things, because our brain has to interpret it so that we understand it. And over the thousands, hundreds of thousands of years that mankind's been around, that's how our brains have shaped. So I'm not quite sure if I answered your question, because I'm not sure exactly what you were asking, but based on what I assume you were asking, that's how we perceive, and that's what our reality is. So I hope I answered your question. But with that, I've had my 30 minutes on my my soapbox, and I love saying this. Eileen's got here. Isn't it truly a wonderful thought to create any reality? And that's the great thing. Here's an example. Go back to your childhood. When you were a when you were a child, you were just full of imagination. That was all you were. And everything around you, you perceived as being possible. There was nothing that you felt limited you. You wanted to be a princess. You wanted to be an astronaut. You wanted to be a fireman. You wanted to do whatever it was. Everything was imagination. Unicorns and flying dragons. They were all possible. They were all real. But as you got older and you became more logical and you became more analytical, all those realities that you once had as a child went away, because you started to condense, if you will, your mind condensed to the point where you were just an individual as an adult. So it's like that childhood mind you'd allowed to evaporate, so that you could then deal with what you're dealing with other people on a constant basis. I don't know if I explained that right, but if it's something that just go back to your childhood and begin to think, that was something that I was thinking about, how all of my realities were just unlimited, right? What else? Okay. Are you sharing a reality with a spirit and vice versa when you are doing a reading? Oh, that's an interesting question. When I'm doing a reading, what I'm perceiving, it's very much like a daydream. Let's see if I can describe this for you. When I'm in a reading, I allow my conscious, logical, analytical, loud, obnoxious mind to float away. So what I wind up doing is I kind of wind up going into a very light, altered state, a daydream like state where I'm just able to allow my thoughts to perceive, understand, and I'm like a giant sponge, and I then just allow spirit's energy to kind of waft over me. I feel them as they draw into my aura. I feel them blend with my energy, and then they just begin to have thought transference. Their communication is really thought transference. And they just begin to give me pieces of information, whether it's through clairvoyance or through clairaudience or through, claircognizance or, clairgustance, any of the clairs, whatever it is that they find to be useful to get information across, to get evidence across, is what they're going to use. It's like, let's put the shoe on the other foot. Let's pretend you were a spirit for a second. How would you communicate with your loved one here in the physical? You can't use your direct communication. You can't pick up the phone and say, "Hey, my name's Bob. This is what I used to do. Remember me?" Blah 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 blah, because that's not what's possible. What they can do is they can drop images. So it's very much like charades. I always refer to it as spirit charades. They're going to drop in pictures. They're going to drop in little sounds. They're going to drop in little understanding, perhaps a remote viewing, perhaps a sudden perception of what their personality or character is like. So that's really how I'm understanding all the information that comes in. And Eileen saying, my late great husband always said that he loved about me was I was like Alice in Wonderland. Perfect, because that's what it's all about. That's our imagination. And when you allow your imagination to stay alive, that's when the child within is still very much alive. Most adults have suppressed that child within, and we're just no longer thinking imaginatively. We're no longer allowing ourselves to fly free because we think, oh, well, I'm an adult. I can't do that anymore. I mean, it's almost like society has said you can't do it. When in fact, you see, there's some people who are very artistic. Their minds are always thinking. Some people say, oh, that guy's out in La La Land, or that person's very creative, or whatever it is. It's just a different persona. You got people who are very analytical, very down to earth, very matter of fact. Then you got other people who are just incredibly creative, constantly thinking. It all depends on where you are. Oh, and Eileen's asking about the music for the meditation. Okay. So the meditation music I used last time, and in fact often do. The title of the track is called Bija, Bija, and it's by Todd Norian, Norian, and he's a great musician, great performer, and he kind of put that whole track together, and it's just one of the most relaxing and beautiful tracks that you can get that I've heard, that really kind of helps you get to that space. So I hope that all helps. So I'm going to wrap it up. I thank you all, and I love connecting with you all. I love giving you all this wonderful information. I love sharing with you everything that I've learned, I've come to know, and hopefully, as I share this information with you, it'll begin to expand your consciousness. It'll begin to unravel some of the mysteries. Perhaps it'll get you thinking in different directions. It'll open your mind, and that's really what it's all about. Is I just want you to open your mind, open yourself, and start question everything, and start saying, my reality is not what I thought it was. There's a lot more to it. So with that, I thank everybody, and I love seeing you again. So from me, I am signing off. This is Chris Lippincott, and I will see you next week. And if you like everything that you've been seeing, just always subscribe, because that way you'll be able to see all the information that comes out on my channel. So with that, I say, bye-bye for now.